Well, guys, thank you for the privilege of taking a few minutes. I just want to thank all those that put this on in the morning, from Foster to John to Pete to names that I'm sure I've forgotten. We're grateful for their service. Also, I want to look at you guys. You're courageous, and I've had people say, why would you use that term? I can't imagine. Some of you have gotten up and realized, like, I can't believe I'm going to something like this. Or perhaps you've woke up this morning and you say, I can't believe I'm going again to something. I'm still going to something like this. And there takes a degree of courage to stand up, to face that, and then to step into it. And so I give you all kinds of words of encouragement for that, and truly courage. So again, I've got just a few minutes that I want to take, and I always say it is kind of risky to give a pastor a microphone and say just a few minutes. That's not, but there's a concept in physics, if you remember. It's the second law of thermodynamics, and it's called entropy. And entropy, very simply defined, is that things move towards chaos. Things left unattended turn to chaos. You put a refrigerator in the front yard, and over a period of time, the refrigerator turns to rust. That is the order of things. It moves from an organization through time to chaos if we don't attend to it. And that is a law that our Creator put into practice. We serve a very harmonious and consistent Creator. I believe that same law applies not to inanimate objects like refrigerators, but it applies to God's second creation, which is us. Things left unattended turn to ruin. I want that to sink in just a little bit, to give you that opportunity perhaps to look at your life in a sense, okay, what needs tending to? What needs tending to in this season of my life at this particular time? And it's not it's not an easy thing, because we have an internal narrative that says it's too late, or it's too hard, or something that is holding us back. And if that is a law that our God put into place in his two creations of nature and man, and a lot of us have left things unattended, and perhaps this is a time to begin to attend to the things that you've left unattended, and to re-look at some things in your life at this season in your life, at this particular time. And to be able to do that, we have to sometimes overcome a natural hesitancy of a resistance. And that's what I pray the Holy Spirit speaks loud. Our speakers communicate into that you're hearing a voice, that you have some degree of clarity to say, what needs attending to? What do I need to spend some time with? We aren't here to tell you what that is from a value standpoint. My job here today is just to encourage you and to remind you of this law that is put in place by our Creator that we are all beholden to. We have 33 pounds of gravity pushing down on us. We don't see it, we don't feel it, but no one escapes it. It's that law of entropy also. No one escapes it. And so, what is the internal narrative? What is the voice? Is it too hard? Is it too late? I have a firm belief that it's never too late to be the person that God has intended you to be. I don't believe he wastes a minute. There is not a, I didn't think that through, God in his head. The concept is that everything has been ordained to get you here, and some of it stinks. Some of it is just awful. Some of it you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. But that's what you're leaning into now, to say, okay, what do I believe in this, God? And what do I do with this? I don't believe there's a wasted time. And so whatever it took you to get to here has been part of your plan, whether it's acceptable or not, my challenge to you would be to look at it and then to be able to say, I didn't think it was going to turn out this way, but if I believe what that guy was saying, it's never too late to be the person you wanted to be, then you press on. Now, there's a little caveat. I always wanted to be the shortstop for the Cubs, but that's probably out. The point is there's a normal bell curve, and so I'm speaking within reason, and I pray you understand that. So the second thing is, the first thing is attend to what needs attending to. Second thing is, what is your internal narrative that is limiting you from being that? And the third thing I want to leave you with is don't do it alone. Don't do it alone. We're not intended to be alone. You know, Simon and Garfunkel had it wrong. No man is a rock in an island. That's not how we're built. There's 59 one another's in our scripture. There's a reason God keeps saying one another, one another, one another. So if you're in that time where there's this attending to what I've left unattended to, think about it. It's worth that time. Don't be resistant to that kind of narrative, and don't do it alone. So the final thing I want to say is that psychology, the way people move in behaviors, we think, we feel, we do. Our thoughts inform our feelings, and most of the time we act out of our feelings. So our feelings drive our behaviors. So that's why Scripture has over and over talks about the renewing of your mind. Think on these things that are good and right. Meditate on my word, because the game of life is played between the ears. And so the concept is, what are you thinking? And life has an energy tax. I mean, it's taking energy from you. So what is it that you are thinking that drives what you're feeling, that ultimately informs what you're doing? And I want to share this with you, to be able to think of your thoughts, to be able to tend to your thoughts, to go back to my original statement, to tend to your thoughts. And it goes like this. If your mind is loud, write. If your mind is empty, read. If your mind is racing, walk. If your mind is tired, sleep. If your mind is sharp, build. Tend to your mind. Apply the right solution or the right input to where your mind is to be able to manage that. My deepest prayer is that this time that you spend here causes you to think, you learn some skills and you meet some people, but it also causes you to think about who you are at this particular season. And so to be part of that, it's a humble privilege. So I wish you the best this morning. I'm going to offer a brief prayer, and then if there's anything we at Stonebriar can do to help you, it's our great humble privilege to do that. Just let John or Pete or someone know, and I'll get to you. Someone will get to you as best as we are able to. So, Father God, be present today. May your Spirit move and speak to each of those in attendance exactly the way they need to hear. Let us not be wise in our own eyes that we're too far in front of you, nor behind you, because that's a dangerous place to be. But let us be present, enjoying the work that you're already at work doing. That is a beautiful place for us to be. So, Lord, be with all who speak this morning and all the conversations here. May they be good for us and bring you glory. It's in your name I pray. Amen. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It is so great to be here, and I want to thank you guys for being here. I'm so grateful to be able to be talking with you today. Just out of curiosity, I know Pete mentioned, I've spoken a couple of times here and also at South Lake Focus Group. Has anybody been to one of my talks before? Awesome. I'm so excited. Okay. So I never do the same thing twice. A lot of this will be very similar, but I've also added in some extra information for you guys that I think will be of much value to you. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lauren Schmidt, and I am a rapid transformational therapist, a clinical hypnotherapist, and a mindset strategist. So I focus on leadership development, cultural transformations, and operational optimization. My background stems from over the last 16 or so years. I've founded 2 businesses, one in event planning and production, this one with Rise Therapy with personal or leadership development. And I also was the COO for a hospitality company where I have built efficient workflows, led cross-functional teams, both internally and externally, influencing strong people-centric cultures where we're aligning with our excellence and client service missions. So my passion stems from helping professionals to be able to realize their full potential so that they can lead their teams, their organizational processes to excellence. And that's what's prompted my work with Rise Therapy. And what I do know is that the very best leaders lead from within first. They lead through their self-awareness and their emotional intelligence. So the way I start with helping people is by first helping them to clear their mental and emotional limitations, to shift disempowering behavior patterns, and to remove energetic blocks so that they can step into their true capabilities and capacities and lead with certainty and power, even during difficult life changes. So, and let's face it, this life change is a big one, right? So, it's being in job search can feel like you're on this tumultuous, overwhelming roller coaster where you're just praying that it will stop so you can get off. So I want to ask you, and I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions because I want to hear what you guys are thinking. I want to hear where you're at. What brings you here today? What are you hoping to get out of this session? Anyone? Networking? Absolutely helpful. Anything else? Good. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe some new approaches, right? New resources, new tools. Maybe to find that piece of the puzzle that's been missing, that's going to give you momentum, clarity, confidence, to help you stand out amongst the rest of the crowd, to help you speed up your job search so that you can land not just a role, but the right role for you. Am I right? Ultimately, right? So I have some really great news for you. The key to finding all of that, it's not something you actually have to go out and find. It's the best asset you own, the very best tool that you have already in your arsenal. It is the mindset you hold and the energy that you project. See, your mind is very powerful, but your energy is magnetic. And I don't mean to sound woo-woo, I promise you, that's actually physics. But, so we're gonna be, let me see here. There we go. Okay. So you are so much more powerful to create what you actually want for your life, for your career, than you might realize. So if you guys could really truly learn how to harness your biggest asset, to optimize it, to take you from a state of overwhelm, fear, doubt, to a place of focus, being at ease, feeling more confident, would that be beneficial to you? Yes, all right, let's go. Okay, so we have an hour of power here coming up. We're gonna be learning a lot. So we're gonna be talking about today how your thoughts shape your energy and your energy affects your results. We're gonna be talking about what happens when negative emotions are ignored. We're going to also be talking about, I'm going to share with you one effective way to reframe past experiences that may be keeping you stuck. You'll also be learning how to become confident despite facing rejection, as well as clarifying more in depth what you want for your next role. And then finally, we'll conclude with doing a visualization to help you shift out of survival mode so that you can start attracting the success you deserve. Does that sound good? Okay, awesome. Perfect. Oh, and then also at the end, I'm going to be offering to you a free breakthrough session where we're going to actually dive a little bit deeper, and we'll be doing a full energy clearing of unconscious blocks that you might not even be aware that you're holding on to. And I'll offer that, I'll put that a QR code up at the end. That will be on Thursday, October 16th at 4 o'clock for about an hour, hour and a half. So perfect. All right. Okay, so as we get started, I just want to make sure that we're all in agreement together that this is a no judgment zone, okay? So that this is a safe space for us to share what's going on, right, with our job search, what's going on with us within our mindset here. Do we all agree? Yes? Cool. Okay. So raise your hand because I want to get some more clarity from you and some more understanding where you're at kind of mindset wise. So raise your hand if this experience has caused your confidence to be shaken. Yeah? Okay. Raise your hand if you feel like you've been rejected, either by your job letting you go, recruiters turning you down, you feel like colleagues have kind of ghosted you, they're not showing up for you the way that you hoped. Okay? Yep. And raise your hand if you feel like these experiences are getting in your head. They're affecting the time it's taking also is affecting kind of how you're showing up, how you're working, how you're practicing. Okay, good, perfect. And then last hand raise, I promise. Raise your hand if you feel like no matter how you keep trying to stay in control, to stay positive and focused, to keep pushing forward, you feel as though there's this anxiety and worry and fear that's just bubbling up like a pressure cooker, and you feel like you might burst. Yeah, okay. Okay, well, you are not alone, clearly, right? With all these hands being raised. Got it. Okay. So, have you considered that, let me go back here, sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, so you are doing the best that you can. You feel like you're putting your best foot forward. You're preparing the best you can, utilizing the tools you have and what you know. But it feels as though nothing's working. Like all this effort is like, can I put all this work in and it's just not paying off? Have you considered that for some of you who have lost your jobs, that you have not acknowledged and you are unknowingly carrying around the loss of that part of your identity that ended when the job ended? Yeah. See, the thing is that your life is changing, and what you know in terms of your daily routine, who you interact with, how you're helping, it's all changed. It's done. And now you're creating a new identity, and that identity is unknown. You don't know what that person looks like or that part of that person, because the part of the foundation which you have heavily relied on to validate who you are and how you contribute, it doesn't really exist anymore. And that causes frustration, disappointment, maybe some resentment, sadness. You're kind of like in this turmoil, right? The thing about it is that our emotions don't go away if we try to ignore them. Actually, they get stronger. and they keep compounding. And what happens is we're in this state of emotion that affects our thoughts. It affects how we behave and show up. And it affects the energy that we put out, that goes out and projects out to other people, whether we realize it or not. So, and it doesn't matter how justified the change was, right? Like the job had to end, right? If it still feels like, sad, or you haven't acknowledged the emotions around that loss, then you could be carrying that into what you're doing now, which is in job search and trying to land the next role. So what happens this is what's called looping thoughts. Every single thought we have, whether we realize it or not, forms some sort of emotion, okay? So we have a thought, it creates an emotion, and this is just like what Pastor Steve was talking about. That emotion affects our behaviors, either the actions we take or we don't take any action at all. So an example of what I mean by this, it could be that maybe, and I'm going to give this example because I've heard this many times from people actually. I have another interview coming up, but you know what? I probably won't get it. I've been on so many and I just never get hired, And so there's the thought. And what's the feeling? Rejected. You've already rejected yourself, right? Yeah, the feeling is rejection, sadness, disappointment. And then what happens? One of two things happen. You go through the motions and you still prepare, okay? You still do the research of the company. You do all of your Q&A questions. You know your resume, all that stuff. But the energy behind your words in that interview and what you are projecting is they don't buy it. They just don't buy it. It doesn't connect with them. You're not connecting on the same level they're at or where they need you to be. Or you really just don't prepare and you just sabotage the whole thing because you feel like, what's the point? And then what's the result? No job. Now we're back at square one. So what I want to do is I want to encourage you to do something that most people don't talk about, and they actually tell us not to do it, but I disagree. Because I know that emotions do not go away if we don't deal with them. I encourage you to get it out, to release the pent-up pressure that you are feeling. Release the anxiety, the stress, the feelings of rejection, the disappointment, the resentment, the anger you're feeling. Get it out. Do it in a way that works for you, whether you have to yell and scream, whether you have to go for a really hard run. Journal, because writing is excellent for activating your prefrontal cortex and releasing energy. But let it go. And I know men and women deal with their emotions very differently and how they express them. So do what works for you. But take a few minutes, take an hour, take a half day, whatever it takes to get it out with the promise and the intention that once you do, you let it go and you move on, because there's literally nothing you can do about it, right? It's happened. But don't let this, if you're feeling this pressure, because this is where I feel it, it's here and here. If you feel that, and it's bubbling and it's not going away despite whatever you're trying to say and do in a really calm way, like, take that time. I promise you, you're going to feel so much better. Your lines of communication are going to open up with other people. You're going to become more flexible to different opportunities, different options for yourself. And you're going to get more work done because it's not nagging at you. Feeling scared, feeling fearful all the time, having to try to be in such control when you don't feel like that. So, have you guys ever heard of this saying, whatever you think, you're right? Yes. Well, that is just, it's not just a silly little one-liner. It's actually a neuroscience-backed rule of the mind. Oh, sorry, I'm doing terrible with these slides, guys. I'm sorry. There we go. Whatever we think and we believe, we're right. See, 90% of our behavior comes from automatic patterns. They're derived from programs that have been running in the back of our minds. And of the 60 to 70,000 thoughts that we have per day, yes, 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day, depending on how long we're awake in the day, 95% of those thoughts come from our subconscious mind. Do you all know the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind? Just quickly, does anybody know? All right, awesome. I'm so excited. Okay, so really quick, the conscious mind is beta brainwave. It's what we're in right now. Okay, you're learning. You're listening, you're learning, you're taking in information, you're deciding what's true, what's false, right, wrong. Okay? It's a mind of repetition. Okay? The subconscious mind is alpha brainwave, and it is the acceptor of information. It does not delineate or determine what's true or false. It's all true once accepted. Okay, so it's also in charge of the parasympathetic nervous system, breathing, heart rate, blinking, digestion. So it's a very big part of that, it's a huge function, right, in our bodies. So we operate 95% out of subconscious. It's automatic, programmed. And an average of 80% of our thoughts are negative, depending on who we are, right? On average, 80% of our thoughts are negative. So think about it. And then you've got 90% of your behavior is automatic. This can explain why it is so difficult to change our mind. We're running on autopilot. We're not even realizing what we're thinking, what we're saying, how we're behaving. And then when we try to change our mind, because we realize it's not good, our thoughts aren't great, it's not going to create us the, experiences we want, it's really hard. Think about people who start exercise programs. How many of you start exercise program? Yes, so gung-ho, I'm going to exercise. And then you get like a couple weeks in and that's it. You're done. It's because you haven't changed your beliefs. Oh, let me go back. Yeah, oh, that's okay. So in terms of that brings us to a rule of the mind that the mind cannot hold opposing or contradictory beliefs or thoughts. And so I'll give you an example. Let's see. So you've got an interview coming up. And you say, I'm going to be so confident in this interview. I've been practicing. I know my star stories, my resume inside and out. I know the company. I'm going to be perfect for this job. I'm going to do so well. But as you're saying it, you can feel a sense of doubt. You feel skeptical about the words or the thoughts that you're thinking. And you might even feel like an imposter, like, who am I to be interviewing for this role, right? So what's happening is that the belief is what? The thought is, I'm going to be so confident, but the belief is, am I really? Do I really deserve this? Can I really do this? Because the belief is the past experiences. My job let me go. My colleagues don't call me anymore. I've been on so many interviews and no one's picked me yet. Maybe I don't really bring the value that I think that I do. Maybe I'm really not valuable enough. And then what feelings come from that? The doubt, the fear, right? That feeling like you might be get rejected again, and you don't want to do that. So the mind will revert to the belief that's been accepted by the subconscious, always, because that is the path of least resistance. If the change that you are trying to make has not been normalized, if it doesn't feel safe to your mind, it will always revert back to the original belief. Always. So the changes you're making have to be deemed as safe by your mind in order for it to trust it, okay? And that goes into another rule of the mind, that once a belief has been accepted in the subconscious, it will stay there until there is a replacement. And one surefire way to keep your negative beliefs going in that same pattern is to keep telling the same stories with negative outcomes over and over again. Yes, ma'am.
Where does the original belief come from?
Great question. The original belief, yes, so what she said is, where does the original belief come from? The original belief comes from either a one-time experience we had where we've attached meaning, right? Or it could be multiple similar experiences over and over again. And then the mind says, well, that must be true. See, the thing is that whenever we have an experience, we attach meaning to it. Whether we realize it or not, consciously or unconsciously, we always attach meaning. Because our mind is always wanting to keep us safe, surviving. That is its function, is to keep us surviving. So we're looking, and depending on what our experiences have been from the time we've been in the womb to now, that mind, depending on if we've got a lot of trauma going on, is always looking, searching. How do I stay safe? I need to stay in the comfort zone. So that's why it's hard. When you guys when you feel uncomfortable in a new situation, that's a very normal feeling. Your mind is saying, hey, whoa, wait a minute. We don't know this. We've never done this before. And the thing is that you don't realize when you form beliefs, and a lot of times this happens as a child, that you form beliefs, then these beliefs lay dormant, and then they rear their ugly little heads at the worst times when you're as adults, teenagers, adults, 30s, 40s. And all of a sudden you're like, why am I like this? So yes, so the stories and the narratives that you repeat over and over again is one surefire way to keep yourself believing the negative self-limiting beliefs over and over again. So an example of this is there was a member from another career transition group, and she was sharing with me that she's been seeing all over LinkedIn and talking to people who are in the same situation, that it's harder and harder to find jobs. There's more people in the job market than there are jobs, and it's so difficult. And that, it's taking longer and longer. And she was going on and on about this. And I'm listening to her. And while a lot might be valid, right? But I'm sensing this feeling of like defeat and frustration. from a woman who really wants to land a role quickly. What do you think could be inadvertently, what is she inadvertently doing? Yeah. She is creating this reality for herself. She's making it true. So I asked her, I said, you know, I hear what you're saying, and it's not like you need to ignore the information, but does this need to be part of your journey? Like, do you have to fall within, you know, with what's going on with everyone else? Aren't there people who are landing quickly within a couple of months? We hear about it all the time. You have a choice, you know, on what you want to be a part of your story. What do you want your narrative to be? That doesn't have, and she said, I don't want that. You know, I want nothing to do with that. It's like, okay, well, don't keep sharing the story over and over again, because that energy, you're buying into it. You're buying into it whether you realize it or not. Yes. Oh, yes, get that mic.
Teresa Martinez. My question is really, I hear what you're saying, and I really believe what you're saying is true. But how do you change that when people constantly ask you, how's your job search going? And it's not going as well as you would like. And I'm a glass half full person, so I'm usually positive, but that's a constant question I get because people know I'm in the job search. So I'm curious how you would respond to that type of question.
You know, and that's a great question. I think that having when people are asking you, right, and I know that sometimes you get to a point where you're like, please God, don't ask me. Just don't ask, you know, because maybe you don't have anything new to share. But if you can draw on, and we're going to talk actually more about this kind of indirectly, but if you can draw on some things that are happening that are positive, you know, in job search or in your life, and focus on that, you know, because what we focus on is what we move towards, right? So you might not be feeling like what you are reaping what you sow, but you are sowing. So the energy that you are putting in, the effort that you are putting in will eventually get you the results that you want. So focus on that energy and the effort that you're putting in at this time. You know, it's moving along. It's moving along. I have applied to 2 jobs this week. I've got 5 one-to-ones, you know, coffee chats. I'm going to 2 networking events this week, and it's really moving along. Because you don't have to get tied into the fear and the discouragement, right? So shifting that focus on what am I doing well? Or at least okay. Some people need to start neutral, and I understand that.
Hey, Lauren, if I can, one of the things I hear all the time, especially people like me who've got these things called wisdom highlights up here, is that, well, ageism is out there. Because I'm a certain age, you're not even going to consider me. And personally, I think that is all between your ears. It's a matter about the energy and the way you show up, and the way you present yourself. But how would you address something like that?
Yeah, so that's a story that you're perpetuating, right? What is that going to do for you? How's that going to benefit you? To think that, does it make you feel good to think I'm too old? No, man, you've got a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience. That's what you need to be focusing on. I had a client, a recent client that just actually went through my program, and she's amazing. She was in career transition, had been looking for like a year and a half, and that was one of her things. I'm so old, I'm in my 60s, nobody wants me, you know? And what we talked about was, what is this doing for you to think this way? Are you justifying the fact that you haven't found a job yet? Is this what you need to do to justify it? Because literally, guys, we can justify anything. We can rationalize it to make it work to our benefit, but does that benefit you?
We have a comment over here.
Yep. This is William McLaughlin. So just wanted to introduce myself before asking my question as per the instructions. And my comment about on the ageism side of things, I saw there was a video recently uploaded on the YouTube channel called "A Life After Layoff." It's one of my favorite YouTube channels, and honestly, it's probably one of the best YouTube channels to ever exist, in my opinion. And there's a pretty good video on that channel about ageism or age bias, as it's often called as well. And he talks about, and the founder of that channel talks about why it happens, and just methods you can use that can help you overcome that. And so so anyone that's experiencing that, I would encourage them to give that video a watch. Mm-hmm. Thanks for letting me comment.
Yeah. Reach out. And another thing you can do is talk to people who are older who have found jobs.
I think we lit a fuse. Hang on.
I like what you did there because, when you're hearing things again and again and again, right, it does start to become a continuous feedback loop and you internalize it. Mm-hmm. But if you were prepared with ways to refute certain things with tools, for example, taking off something on your resume from 25 years ago because nobody cares, or taking off something that seems unrelated for a short period of time, right? Those are kind of the actionable things that I think that a lot of us may need, as opposed to just saying that, and I know this wasn't the intention, that it's between your head. It's not just between your head. There's some real things going on in the marketplace and the dynamics right now that exist, should be validated, and should be actioned against.
What was the last part you said, that exists in what?
And should be actioned against, right?
Right.
So there are tools to help you against those things.
Yes.
Against ageism, against being out of the workplace too long, for an example, or perhaps you had to leave work to care for an aging parent that then adds to the time on your resume where you may not have been in the workplace. So I think that every situation has a counter situation that can be explained, right? And that helps you with your confidence to then be able to pivot from something that is seemingly a negative to something that you can then own as a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we're going to get into some more specifics too here in a moment.
Sorry, you started this.
It's okay.
Hi, Timolyn Wilson, Project Management and Marketing, CPG. How does the world situation impact, even if you're the most positive about your job search, what is the impact of the external, like a flood happens or there was a murder in your neighborhood? How does that impact the whole situation?
I don't think I quite understand. So
you're having the best situation. You're positive about your job search. Ageism doesn't matter.
Right.
You're doing all the things that you're supposed to do. However, you listen to the news. You have a friend. All of these things are coming at you from different directions.
But how do they influence your job search?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking.
They don't.
But if you're hearing all of these negative things.
Yes, but this is a great question. Your mind is a mind of choice. Okay, you get to choose what you allow in to your life. And what you can say, I cannot deal with that right now. Yes, it is sad. It is awful. But that does not affect me right now getting a job. You get to choose what you allow in and what you put out. Think about your mind. Okay, so then that's, to me, I look at this as like there's a couple of directions here. Your mind is a tool, folks. It is not you. The thoughts you have do not have to be you. Think about your mind as almost like it's a separate entity. You have these thoughts and then you get to choose, do I listen to that or not? Is that true or not? What benefit does that give me or not? And I know this takes practice. So what I'm saying is not something that typically a normal person is just going to be able to go and do. It takes practice. You've got to first become aware of what your thoughts even are, and then what emotional triggers are happening inside of your body, so that you can then go, wait a minute, whoa, stop. Is this me or not? Right? And then you have those emotions. So you're being given a lot of negative information, right? Let's just say the world, this, that, right? It's a lot of negative information. If you're absorbing that energy of that negativity because you're not closing the door on it for a little bit and choosing to not take it in, how is that affecting you? How is that affecting how you behave and how you show up? These are things, can you control that? Can you control what happens in the world? This leads me into, I'm going to skip around here. Hold on a second, because we're going to go right into that. And I know you have a question. Okay, we're going to come back to rejection. Hold on a minute. There's one thing you guys can control that any of us can control. One. What is it?
Your own actions.
Your what?
Your own actions.
But before that, boom, boom, boom. Your thoughts. Everything starts with the thought. You can only control that. That will ultimately affect your emotions, which affects your effort, which affects your results. So if you don't like your thoughts, guess what? You get to change them. You have that power because you're not stuck. You just got to make the effort to do it. And that's, so we don't have any control over what happens in the world. We don't have any control over how we're perceived. Right? You could be sitting there in an interview and, you're thinking, oh, I'm doing such a great job. But that person has come in with their own baggage of hot mess. They want to be home with their baby, or they just got yelled at by their boss. Their job is on the line, but they can't show you that. They've got their own bias. They're mad to be meeting with you because they want Jane Schmo over there to get hired, to get this position. They don't want to be meeting with you. You have zero control over that, you guys. What you can control is how you decide what your thoughts are going to be, how you decide what effort you're going to put in, how you're going to prepare to put your best foot forward. You don't have control over if you change their mind, if what you're saying is being interpreted in the positive way that you're hoping and that you're intending. Right? Does that make sense? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Laura Choate. I just wanted to ask, one thing I've noticed, I'm 23, trying to get a decent full-time position just in my field of specialty. And one thing I have noticed a lot of, because I'm big on, I'll print out my resume, go in, and give it to somebody if I'm able to. But I'm a certified phlebotomist, so a lot of those positions you end up having to apply online, and then you get met with a robot or an AI, and you're never interacting with an actual person. And I have struggled to kind of cut that AI out of the way, because a lot of the times whenever I've been applying to like these Quest Diagnostics or labs or just any type of hospital, it's always an automatic generated answer. And it's like, I applied for a job and they automatically sent me a rejection letter. Like, that kind of thing is so disheartening to have happen over and over. And I've applied for probably like 600 positions since being in Texas. So that's something huge, because they'll just deny it and you won't even be able to talk to a person or get an interview. So I don't know if you'd have any advice on that, but it is a lot about just trying to stay positive, because you can't get negative, you can't get your hopes down about everything. So I do appreciate everything you're sharing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it can be very disheartening, right? I mean, let's not ignore the fact that you're spending hours revamping a resume sometimes. You're spending, searching for jobs, and then you put that resume into an ATS, and that spits out a rejection. A rejection. I don't look at it as that, because I was never seen to begin with. That's the honest truth. You were never seen to begin with. Unless it's a small company and they're literally going through resumes manually, right? By a recruiter. So 9.9 times out of 10, you've not been seen. So thank you for your comment, because that really leads us into, how do we become confident and stay vigilant when we've been faced with rejection over and over again? As a first step, we've got to look at, how do you guys define rejection? What does rejection mean to you? Not getting what you want? Okay. What else does rejection mean to you? Say it. Dear John. Dear John. What else is what does rejection mean to you? What is that word? Denial. Thank you. It's personal.
I was going to say one door closing and another door opening.
Okay, I like that. For some people, it means I'm not good enough. I've failed. I've been denied. But any of the meanings that you've attached to rejection, right? How is that serving you? It makes you feel what? Bad, defeated, discouraged. So the meanings we give to words pull a lot of weight on how they affect us. So what are some other meanings that you can now attach to the word rejection? How can you reframe this word rejection in a way that's going to be more beneficial to you? You could say that wasn't the right company. Not the right company for me.
They don't know what they just missed out on.
That's right. They don't know what they just missed out on. You can also look at rejection as a time for, this is a delay. This is a time for me to go back and improve, to refine myself. How can I do better for the next opportunity? How can I be better? You can look at it as rejection is God's protection or God's redirection. This is not meant for me. I know I think I want it. Dear God, I just want a job. But maybe it is not right for you. And you have to trust that too. And let's face it, if you got that automated letter, they never saw you. You've not been rejected. Maybe you just applied too late. You got in after the cutoff. It means nothing. It really does. When you get the rejection, the actual you've been through the interview, right? And you get the rejection email or the call. One of the things is that you've got to consider is that no one can reject you but you. The person who's giving you the call or sending that email, they're just doing their job. And they've literally forgotten about it already. Send, done, next, moving on. They've put no emotion, no stock into it. It is not personal. We're the ones that are rejecting ourselves, and we're giving our power away of choice, our power of choice away. So when you get that rejection, notice, how can you choose to feel about it and think about it instead?
Numbers game. 1 down, 9 more to go. It's a numbers game.
On to the next.
On to the next.
How can I improve? What did I do? What mistake if I'm really looking at myself, what did I do that wasn't the best in that interview? How did I respond? What did I say? I need to practice more. I'm going to nail the next one. I'm not going to let, they've already forgotten about me. I'm not going to keep being sad or feeling defeated about it. Because what does that do for you? Keeps you stuck, right? That looping thoughts affects your behavior, affects how you show up. Don't give your power away to anyone. They don't know you. They got to spend 30 minutes with you an hour. Yes, sir.
Hey everyone, Earl Wad. Is there any value in asking for feedback in that regard? So I went on an interview, seemed like everything was perfect, got the second interview, everything amazingly seemed perfect, and then I got the email, we've decided to move forward with a different candidate. So is there any value in reaching out and say, hey, what was it that distinguished me from not getting the position? Is that something useful?
I think it is if they will reply.
Yeah, most of the time they're not going to give you any feedback because you're kind of stepping on the shoes of legal and HR and all that, and they don't want to get sued or be accused of anything. So that's why we encourage you so highly to go to the PIG crew, the practice interview team, and practice your interviewing, because these guys will give you feedback.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's nothing to do with you. Sometimes it's just the fact that the other person had 3 more years experience, more directly on point with what they were looking for. And it was a toss up, but that little bit of extra experience is what, settled it. And again, as Lauren keeps saying, it's nothing personal. It's just, sometimes just the way it is. But I would say you went through an interview round, a couple of interview rounds, you have that experience now. And anytime you go through an interview process, it's experience you gain and experience you have now to be better at the next one.
Yeah. So thank you. When you are, in this process, there's a lot of doubt, right? So how do you become confident when you're feeling doubtful? Doubtful of yourself, doubtful of other people, how they're going to show up for you, help you, follow through with what they say they're going to do, whatever it might be. But, the thing is that you've got to build that confidence up, right? There's no choice unless you want to keep doing this forever, but you've got to build that confidence up. So confidence and doubt can't exist together. Sorry. But confidence and doubt are situational, okay? So you could feel super confident in one area, really doubtful in the other, so just know that, okay? So how do we become more confident when we're feeling doubtful? I first want to mention that doubt is a secondary emotion, okay? the primary, I'll just give you the answer. The primary is fear. So what are we fearful of? Yeah, failing. Some people also, I'll just venture to say, because it's true, some people are also fearful of success and succeeding. So you want to look at, what is my fear? What am I fearful of? And really, truly, identify that, and then how you're going to move past that fear. So a couple of ways that you can do that is, one, you're going to feel the fear and do it anyway, right? You're just going to jump in feet first. You're going to be scared to death, and you're just going to go for it. And you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to learn. That's going to lessen the fear, lessen the doubt, because now you've had the experience. A more comforting, comfortable way that your mind will really appreciate is that you practice. In order to lessen the fear, we've got to practice. The mind likes a plan. It likes to prepare. When you're putting a plan in effect and you are practicing, you're now calming your mind down, where your mind can now be logical, rational. Yes, sir.
I need a mic.
Here you go, William.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's William McLaughlin again. And on the note of confidence, I know we talk about, practicing your interviewing skills. And since the pit crew always seems to have a massive wait list, I'd like to talk about an alternative to that. There's the Jewish Family Service of Greater Dallas has they have their own practice interview program, and that they do it on They usually do it on Tuesdays every week, and all of their interviews are on Zoom. That's especially good if you need help with doing your interviews on Zoom. So the contact person for that is Jason Hopper, and his email address is jhopper@jfsdallas.org. And when you email him, put the words mock interview in the subject line. Again, that's jhopper@jfsdallas.org. Put the words mock interview in the subject line. Thank you.
Thanks, William.
Okay. Yes, so practicing. You guys are part of this incredible group, and maybe some other. We are blessed to have several career transition groups who have incredible resources and tools available. You've got an awesome website, that careerdfw.org, that has calendar of all of the events for job seekers listed in the DFW area. For those who are throughout the United States, that's USA Careers. They also have one for USA type website as well that you can go to. But you have things like, Resume 101, Strength Finders, that's available through South Lake Focus Group. You have Walt Glass's interview coaching before you go to pit crew. Definitely use his interview coaching. You're going to have to be on a wait list because he does it 2 people at a time. But it's so worth it. There's incredible resources out there to help you practice. An accountability group. If you don't have an accountability group, I absolutely encourage you to find one. I've got 2 members of my accountability group right here, Terry and Jim. Thank you guys for coming. But we're going to be starting practice interviewing with each other, breaking it up into sections so that we can get that practice and build our confidence. So when you are putting forth this practice, here's what happens, okay? Let's see, is this my next slide? Yes, okay. We have 4 stages of learning, all right? And this happens with any type of skill that we're trying to acquire. We have the first stage, where we are unconscious and incompetent. meaning we don't know that we don't know. Okay? So look at this is a good illustration. You've got a kid that sees a bike, he doesn't know that he doesn't know how to ride it, right? So he gets on and he falls down immediately. And then you have conscious incompetence, where now it's like, I know this bike is here and I want to ride it, but I don't know how to ride it. Okay? And then you have conscious competence. And that is where you are practicing. You know that you are learning, right? You're developing the skills. You have to think about it. That's that conscious mind, learning by repetition. You have to think about it. You've got to follow the steps actively, right? But you're learning and you're doing it. You can do it. Then you have unconscious competence. This is the mastery stage. This is like, I like to think about it, it's almost like that's in the subconscious mind where you know how to do it. It's like driving a car. When you were first learning how to drive a car, you had to really practice focus, right? Ooh, put it in drive. You know, you had to think about all the steps. But now you just get into your car, push that button and go. You know exactly what to do when you're driving, how to navigate through traffic and all of that. So one of the things that we can do is really to acknowledge that we are learning. You're not masters at job search. Who here is a master at job search? Oh, okay, good. You're coming up next. We're going to talk to you next. All right, great. That's the thing. So acknowledge, give yourself some credit. You know, you're just learning. You don't know what you don't know. That's why we have these incredible people. Oh gosh, I better move through really quick. Okay, so
We
can I go through?
mean, we can take a break at 10:30 and then bring you back at 11 to finish up if you want to.
Yes.
So don't worry about
Okay.
that. But
Okay.
We'll take a short break at 10:30.
Yeah, okay. So, all right. Yeah, because I want to make sure to do the visualization. All right, so a couple of other things that you can do very quickly, I'm going to move through these, is identify and write down what your reference of success is. How do you define success? What makes you feel like you are being successful? Not what society, not what social media, not what friends or colleagues say and how they define it, but how do you define it?
I'm able to pay my bills.
There you go. I mean,
Can you repeat that?
but go deeper with it, right? Like go deeper with it. What inspires you? What lights you up? What makes you feel like, yes, I got this. I'm doing it. I am successful. You can look at it for job search. You can look at it, for your next role. And then also clarifying, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and clarify what it is you want in your next role. What do you want to be doing? Step out of survival mode here for a moment. What do you want to be doing? What do you love? What is your passion? And you can make 3 columns for this, okay? One is my passions, what I absolutely love to be doing, regardless of your skills or certifications, because you'll figure that out. What do you love? What are you good to do? What's okay? What's fine? It's part of the job and you've got the skill, you can do it, you're fine to do it. And then what do you absolutely cannot do it? Nope, no way. If I see that description in the job, I cannot apply for it. It's good to have boundaries. So I know I'm moving through this faster than I wanted to, but when you do this, what you are now doing is you are taking yourself out of this survival struggle mode. You're putting yourself into more of an aligned purpose, attracting what you want type of mode. Okay? You're freeing your mind up, clearing it, you're calming it down. Because when we are in fear mode, that shuts down the rational part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex of the brain, and it doesn't do very well with like executive decision making and all of that. the thing is that practice, 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 that is going to build confidence, okay? Knowing what you want is going to build your confidence.
Lauren, how much more do you have to go?
Probably another 10 minutes.
All right, go ahead and finish it up.
Okay. So what I want to do is really quickly just spend maybe 12 minutes. Just spend a couple minutes. This is so important, you guys. Okay. Is to reframe, if you guys have a piece of paper, notepad, notes on your phone or computer, is to reframe an experience that whenever you think about, that you've had, that whenever you think about it creates a negative emotion. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to write down very briefly, because now we are on a limited time crunch. Very briefly, write down an experience you've had that when you think about it, it makes you feel bad. And then when you're done with that, this is a stretch here, but I want you to write 5 positive things that have come out from that negative experience. 5 positive things that have happened because of that experience. And just look up at me when you're done. And then I want you to write 5 negative things that have happened because of this experience. And once you've done that, as your final step, I want you to write down, if the experience were to ever happen again, how do you choose to handle it? What do you choose to do or say or be? Does anyone notice anything different? Feel kind of a shift in the way maybe a new perspective in that negative experience?
Yeah, I think my name's Roger Finlayson. I think without going into details, as I've thought about it, my negative reaction to the situation that I was in didn't matter, and it was completely unnecessary. So I think in going through and looking at this, I realized, if I had the opportunity to do it again, it's just not a reaction I would have had.
Yeah. the thing is that we're always learning, right? And whenever we decide to shift our perspective, we can always find something positive that has happened from every experience, no matter how negative. You can find something positive. There's a silver lining somewhere. It's just a matter of choice, a matter of how you're choosing to see things, how you're choosing to attach your meanings. Because right now, you've been programmed, we've all been programmed to choose to see negative perspectives before we'll see positive. It's actually, anyway, I'm not going to go into it because that's taking up more time, but okay. So you can, remove the invisible limitations that you've been carrying around unknowingly until now. And this is your choice. And so what happens is a foundational function of our mind is that our mind responds to two things: the pictures we create and the words we say, either via thought or out loud. So we're always creating pictures in our mind. And when you align the pictures, or imagination, if you will, visualization, okay, same thing. When you align pictures and words with emotions, your mind doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. It doesn't. So the more that you can create pictures and words attaching to positive emotions, the more you are now shifting your perspective and you are creating a new reality for yourself. That is how powerful you are. Because imagination is more powerful than logic. It is more powerful than what your current reality is right now. You have to take the time to do it. Yep. But that's okay. So, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier, is what we focus on is what we become. What we focus on is what we move towards. If we're focused on the things that are happening out here that we cannot control, guess what we are doing? We're going to create that kind of turmoil and chaos in our lives. We are going to move towards that. But why are you doing that? Are you trying to avoid not having to deal with your own reality if you're focused on other people's stuff that you have no control over? If you are avoiding, what is that going to get you? So what's been your focus up until now? And be honest with yourself. Yes.
Hi, my name's Julia Damas, and I'm, as far as transitioning to career-wise, it's anti-money laundering, compliance, insurance areas. But whenever you talk about pictures and what you're imagining and what your focus is on, I'm thinking about an interview from several months ago that was on Zoom, and it was an 8-panel person interview, and I'm looking at all their faces while I'm answering the questions, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she doesn't like what I said. I'm imagining all these things by just looking at their expressions. And so now I'm trying to reframe that, like maybe her foot was itching, or maybe she was hungry or something. I'm trying to think of other things now that's why their expressions were like that, instead of reflecting it back on me that I said the wrong thing. I didn't answer the question properly. And so I just am trying to reframe it in the way that you said, to replace those thoughts. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And just something like do you know what your imagination causes too, you guys? We didn't talk about this. This is where anxiety comes from. The worry of what if. Not that is, but that what if. You can shift it, right? You can shift that focus. Because your mind is more powerful. Your imagination is more powerful than logic. Do we have a couple of minutes, Pete? Yeah. Is that okay? I'll do the visualization?
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, I
Yes.
feel compelled to share something that's written on the outside wall of a cancer clinic in my neighborhood. Fear is a liar.
It's a liar. Just keeping you stuck and keeping you small. Yeah. Okay. So we kind of move through, and what I want to do is I want you to show yourself how powerful your imagination is, how powerful you are. Shifting your focus and taking some time to get out of the survival mode, the hows, the what ifs, and allow yourself to actually see your potential future and create an expanded potential for yourself. One of the things we went through quickly, so when you were talking about the 3 columns about creating, your ideal role and what you want to attract, what would be, your desired role for yourself. If you have that, or some parts of that at least, integrating that into a visualization is going to be so helpful for you in designing and creating your reality. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend just a few minutes where you guys now get to just relax. You're going to make yourselves comfortable. And what I'll be doing is we'll do some deep breathing. We've got to relax the nervous system because now you've been in that conscious brain, right? That beta brain wave. You've been learning. And we're going to relax the nervous system. I'm going to be asking you questions. You'll close your eyes down, and I'm going to be guiding you to a visualization where you're going to be able to create your potential reality. So we're going to be going through a process where you are going to see yourself, your future self, applying to jobs you love, okay? Or networking. I'll give you that option, and let your mind just go and do what it wants to do. And you're going through the interview process confidently, showing up really strong, relaxed, and getting the job that you want, and how you're responding to that and how that feels, and trusting in that, okay? So there will be a bit of a warm-up phase because right now we want to tell the conscious mind that it's time to take a break, and we want the subconscious mind to come forward. So there's going to be a little bit of a relaxation where you're starting to allow that transfer of your mind to happen and just allowing yourself to become comfortable. And so if you guys would like to join me in this, if you would like to record the audio of this visualization, you're more than welcome to pull out your phones and turn the voice record on. And this way you can do this at home. I encourage you as a daily practice to do this visualization and really put yourself in the right energy to create this momentum for yourself that you absolutely deserve. So as you make yourself comfortable, putting pens down, putting phones down, I want you to go ahead and just take a couple of deep, calming breaths. And just breathing in confidence and releasing tension and stress. Just breathing, releasing. And as you're breathing, I want you to gently tell your conscious mind to go ahead and take a break. Just rest for a little bit. And ask your subconscious mind to come forward. When you feel ready, go ahead and close your eyes all the way down, knowing that you're safe in this environment, knowing that this is all your choice and you are choosing to be here to allow yourself to expand your potential. And as you continue to breathe normally, shifting your focus, I want you to imagine that you're standing in a beautiful nature scene. And this nature scene can be anything real or imagined, a beautiful lush forest, a desert, a serene lake, or a beautiful beach. Notice the colors, the textures. Notice if there are any sounds or even smells. Just be there. Be present. And notice how you feel being in such a beautiful place. Content, peaceful, calm and relaxed. And now appreciate that sensation, appreciate that feeling of where you are, what you're seeing in your mind. And where you're standing, you notice that there's a nice, easy path that lay before you, and you decide to follow that path to see where it will take you. As you're strolling along, feeling calm, just noticing, you see a bench right before you, and you decide to take a seat. And as you sit on the bench, a large screen appears in your mind's eye. And on it, the screen warms up and you can see you. It's a version of you that is confident, strong, relaxed. And this version of you is in job search. And you can see that you are either at your desk applying for roles that you're really excited about, or perhaps you're networking with people, making connections with people who can actually get you hired in a new role. Whatever your mind is seeing, just be there for a moment. Whatever you're doing, it's working. See yourself getting a call for an interview, setting the date and time. What are you feeling right now? You're preparing, getting ready, researching, doing all of the things that you need to do, following all the steps to get ready for this interview, to put your best foot forward. Visualize yourself now going into the interview. Maybe it's on Zoom, maybe it's with in person or on a panel. How do you look? How do you sound? How are you responding to questions and asking questions? You are ready. You can see you're ready. And now see the interview ending. You're expressing your interest. You're receiving information on next steps and timelines. And now as you're waiting to receive the call back, to receive the answer, how do you decide to move about your life? What are you doing? And now see yourself as the phone rings and you get the call. The job offer has been made. They've picked you. How does that feel? What are you saying in response? What are you thinking? Allow a smile to come upon your face because it feels good. And now I want you to merge with that person, that version of you on the screen. Feel what they feel. Think what they think. Embody who they are. The fact that you can see it and you can feel it means that you can be it. This can be you. Now take a mental snapshot of this scene. Pull it into your body, knowing that it's already yours. Trust that it's going to happen. Let it go. Detach from the how it's going to happen. And whenever you think about yourself interviewing, this will be the picture that comes into your mind. And now I want you to go ahead and take a nice grounding breath in and out, and open up your eyes whenever you're ready. How was that? Feel good? Good. It's amazing what can happen when we step out of our self-limiting, restrictive patterns and we step into our solution-oriented way of being, what we truly are, what we truly deserve. We are not hardwired to stay the same. We're not doomed by our past. We are designed to change. And we are always learning, which means we're always improving and always getting better. So I will just cut this short because I know Pete's looking at me. So it is, it's one thing to get the information, right? Information about all of this is everywhere. But it's another to integrate it and actually put it into practice so that you can embody it and become it. So if you guys would like to dig a little bit deeper, I've put together a breakthrough session called Hired Energy, where we're going to dive deeper, get more into this, and we're going to do a full energy clearing of your unconscious and conscious blocks so that you can actually be more at ease and feel and know your confidence as you step through and walk through this journey and land your role more quickly. That's it. Thank you.
So usually it's time of the presentation. We open it up to you guys. I mean, you've heard Lauren this morning. If you have further questions on what she was talking about or any questions about the job search, she'll handle the software aspect. I'll handle the hardware aspect of this job search. So, all right, what do you guys got? Come on. Dee, what do you got? John?
What?
Will you put the... Is he back there? He's not back there. Okay.
Hi, Dee Robinson, and I volunteer helping job seekers, but I've sat where you sat in this room 10 years ago. My question is, I heard some advice from a coach recently that said sometimes a person can be so wounded that they actually need to spend some time and deal with that through grief before having the energy to move forward.
Yeah.
And I can think about a person in particular who I've talked to recently, whose former boss said to her, "You are unhirable." Exactly. So my question is there an appropriate amount of time that it's okay to really stay there and process the grief and the wound that is so deep. I mean, you heard the audible gasp, right? Or should there always be a mindset momentum to change? What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's absolutely you should absolutely deal with the wounds, right? And the hurt and the fact that someone has put you down and disrespected you in such a hurtful way. When you deal with that, you don't want to stay in it, right, forever. And you don't want to carry it with you because it becomes very toxic. I actually heard a very similar story recently with a girl who was being let go, and the boss pulled her into his office and said, "This is why you are unhireable." And that can truly be so hurtful. Once you have spent some time to really process that, you've got to be able to dig yourself out of the hole, right? So at what point, at some point, you're going to have to start saying, well, you know, I can't carry this with me because then I'm going to end up fulfilling what this person just said about me. And you've got to start looking at developing your value, right? Your own personal value. See, there's a difference between our self-esteem and our self-worth. And most people don't realize that. Esteem is situational. Okay, we could have high self-esteem at our job, feel very good speaking in front of people, whatever it might be. But we might have a low self-esteem in, I don't know, caring for children. I don't know. But it's situational, okay? Self-worth is the foundation of who we are. And that carries into self-esteem. It carries into our confidence. So when you if you've already have a low self-worth, negative things that people say to you are going to affect you a lot more deeply than if you have a high self-worth. Self-worth comes from a few things. One is our ability to feel safe, to know that we're safe, and we can create our own sense of safety and protection for ourselves, no matter where we're at. Self-worth comes from love, from being loved, from loving ourselves. It also comes from trusting ourselves. Self-worth is also developed by being seen and heard, okay? And by being celebrated. So this all encompasses, and so what affects our self-worth, and it starts so young, you guys, so young, in the womb. Your senses of hearing, it's the first sense that you actually get. And so you can actually hear while you're still in the womb. So if you have fighting parents, you can feel your mother's emotions. So if you've had a mom that went through a lot of trauma or abuse or anything like that, you've absorbed that. That could play an effect on your validity of your self-worth. So the wounds are really important to acknowledge. And then I would absolutely encourage her to seek some professional guidance to help her navigate through that, because I'll be honest, we are not objective with our own selves. We can really get stuck. We can really not see our value. It is hard. We rely. So what happens with validation? We handle this one of three ways. So what most of us do is we seek external validation. Okay, I need you to tell me that I'm good. Tell me that I'm doing a good job. Tell me that I'm lovable, right? And what happens is with that is that most people, they can do that for a little while. Your spouse, your kids, your boss, your best friend, they can do that for a little while, but no offense, we're all inherently selfish, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but we need to validate, we need that too. So we can't just keep giving to you, giving to you, giving to you. The other way is we push the need for validation down. I don't need it. I don't need it. And that hurts our self-worth because now we're ignoring a need. But the best way is that we provide the validation for ourselves. And it takes work. If you've not been exposed to it, if your parents, if you weren't raised in a nurturing environment and you don't have already a foundation, it takes extra work. But you can do that. You can create a foundation for yourself where you learn how to validate and see your skills, see the value you bring to situations, provide your own love, your own sense of safety, your own trust. And that's exactly what I do with my clients, is I help them. Truly, this is what the work we do is I help them to establish their value, their self-worth. Because once you have that, you can do anything.
Let me add as well, because this comes up a lot in conversations I have with people in coaching. I always tell them that separation from a company, usually, obviously, it's not your choice, is oftentimes no different than going through a divorce, a bad breakup, or anything like that. And that significant other you had before could have put those same kind of thoughts in your head about you're worthless, you're not good enough for this, you're not good enough for that, whatever that looks like. And you do have to take some time to heal, and I wholeheartedly endorse that. However, there's always outside influences, whether it be your finances dictate that whether I'm healed or not, I got to get back and do this. And you're not ready for that, but you feel like you have to be forced to do that. Or sometimes, unfortunately, it's other family members that are putting that pressure on you. Come on, Lauren, how come you don't have a fun job?
Right.
Coming out there looking for a job yet? And that could be harmful as well. So I endorse wholeheartedly taking the time to heal, try to shut down some of those negative influences and lean more towards the positive. Lauren said it before, we've always said it, do not give your power away to somebody just because they said you're unhireable. Who is that person to make that decision for you? Only you can make that decision. And so you have to be strong enough to be able to say, I am in control, not that person. And whatever, whether it's seeking counseling, like Lauren said, or being around groups like this where other people can lift you up. The last thing I want you to do is, I always tell people that a recipe for depression is sitting at home, applying for jobs, getting all these rejections, and having either family members or friends saying, so where are you now? I think somebody brought that up earlier. How come you don't have a job yet? How come you don't have a job yet? What are you doing? What do you mean going to those groups? You should be at home applying for jobs. So there's a lot of outside influences that add to that stress. So you have to figure out a way to best handle it for you, whether it's going for a walk, meditation, seeing a professional, whatever the course may be, mowing your lawn, whatever it is that helps you. To me, it was always pulling weeds. All those weeds that I was pulling always had somebody's name on it.
Love it. I love pulling weeds. So satisfying.
So yeah, but you have to get over it somehow. And whatever that looks like for you, I'm nobody to tell you what that looks like for you, but figure out a way that helps you get over that and realize that you are who you are. You have that confidence. We'll help you with that. We really will, in terms of, fixing up your resume. All those technical things that right now you don't have the wherewithal to focus on, we can help you with that. Absolutely. All right, there was a question way in the back.
Yes, my name is Moses. I just recently moved to Texas.
Welcome.
Thank you. From the continent of Africa, East Africa, Kenya. And when I arrived, I started working with leaders in different nonprofits as they transition from maybe a name, from one name to another, from a founder to more of a different vision. And one of the things that I saw working with one of the team leaders was, as they're transitioning, their own job descriptions kind of changing, and they're not in their comfort zone. My question is for people who are also already still working, even for us who are not necessarily working and looking for a job, as I am, but is what are some of the tools that people can use to help them to kind of still, as we're talking about self-worth, and find that self-worth even though their job is changing and transitioning. And some people are probably transitioning what their job's gonna be now, moving into a new area of work or focus. What are some of the tools people can use to consciously and support them to be able to still see their self-worth as they get into this new role? Because it is a challenge when neither maybe you've been out of a work for a long time or are still in a work, but things are kind of shifting under your feet to the point where you feel like my leaders are giving me a role that I'm not necessarily confident in, but also I need to because this is where I'm kind of being directed towards. What are some of the tools that people can use to kind of help them to kind of shift? Because it is, part of it is, because working with a specific individual, I would say an example is they were finding it hard to go into a new role because they were conscious of the fact that they're struggling because they're not necessarily working within their giftings, but at the same time, they feel like since they're being pushed that way, they gotta conform to that new role. So I don't know if there are any, tools that people can use as they even they're changing their job.
I mean, first of all, with anybody you're working with, the first thing I try to do is figure out what your skills are. And it's amazing because most people I meet with who are in that kind of role or in that kind of transition, if you will, they don't realize the number of skills they have. They don't realize what value they've already brought. So one of the first exercises I usually go through is I want you to make yourself a list of all the skills you have. And I'm not talking about just job skills, any kind of skills that you feel you have your strongest skills. Then we start working on how many of those skills are transitional. Second question I'm going to ask you is, what do you want to do? If you have a clean landscape now, what if you can just define your job, create your own job, what would that be? Then we start looking at actual jobs that can fit that. And then how do we work with those transitional skills? How do we take your skills from here to here? Real quick, the last lady I met with on Friday doing resume review had been a housewife, 20 some odd years, horrible marriage, hadn't worked, and talk about having zero confidence whatsoever. That's the first thing we started going through. Give me all your skills. You run a household. You were in charge of budgeting. You helped out with the PTA. You were in charge of planning. You did project management. You did a lot of things. She goes, yeah, I did. So you start bringing out those skills, start thinking about their experiences and everything they've done in the past. And now you can see their self-worth just rising a little bit with every one of those things and thinking, oh, I do have skills. Now it's just a matter of how those skills translate to whatever kind of work it is that person wants to do. Are you a people person? Do you want to be in front of people? Do you want to do sales? Oh, heck no, I want to be in a computer in the background. Fine. So it's just a matter of how we apply those skills. Yep. But it starts with building up the self-worth by making them realize you have a lot more skills than you think you do. You just haven't thought about it in those ways. And that's how we can help.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what I would recommend as a starting point, right? Because we're not able to be as objective with ourselves. What would you, it's like, how would you talk to somebody, to your best friend, who is in that situation? You'd be lifting them up, building them up, telling them all the wonderful things about them, making them feel really great. But we have a really hard time doing that for ourselves. But we've got to do that. We've got to do that for ourselves.
Absolutely. It's somebody else. It's the opposite of what we just talked about, but that boss telling you you're unhireable. We're here to validate the fact that you are hireable. And we are going to point out to you how and how to rebuild that confidence. Because the one thing that's going to destroy you during an interview is that lack of confidence. And we build that confidence back up.
Yes.
So we understand this is your worth, this is what you bring to the table. And honestly, you got to walk in there with, if they don't hire me, they're a bunch of fools. And that's the attitude you got to have when you go into an interview. You got to have that positive attitude to say, this is mine, so this is how I'm going to take it. And your preparation is super key to that, and we help you with that.
Practice.
The big crew is excellent at that. Absolutely excellent.
Hi, I'm Doris Davis. I moved from Bentonville, Arkansas, to follow my husband after he's followed me during 2 career moves geographically. So being in a new area, in a highly networked city such as Dallas, Fort Worth area, regional rather, it's quite difficult. So we've gone through various stages here, right? You've gone through, okay, you're recently separated. There's all the emotional things that come along with it until you land your role. But I think I'm struggling with where the return on investment of time resides, right? I don't feel that it at all resides in sending out 600 resumes through LinkedIn because, sometimes those jobs aren't even available. Maybe depending on the person, it resides with meeting with the pit crew to have a little bit more finesse and tight answers in your interview approaches, right? Having a strategy. But I'm still trying to get a feel for my network landing me the next job when I'm in a new place where I'm not well networked.
Yeah, you have to network.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, no, obviously, you're here. Hopefully, we'll see you Thursday at South Lake. I mean, we have a group that meets Friday mornings here locally as well in Plano, Crash United at 9:30.
I'm
So
sorry, can
the
you say
networking
that
part,
again?
I think you understand the networking part.
Yeah.
And look, we stand up here, and when I do orientation over at South Lake, we always ask, how many people are in sales? The expectation, everybody raises their hand. You're all in sales.
Yeah.
How many of you are in marketing? You're all in marketing.
Right.
But one question I want to ask you, to your point, all of you are farmers. What do I mean by that? You're all planting seeds right now. Every conversation you have, every meeting you go to, every knowledge you gain, you're planting a seed. And that sometimes takes a little bit to germinate, a little time to start growing. So there are many times, I can tell you dozens of stories about people who told me, yeah, I interviewed with that company 4 months ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago, and now they got back to me and they want to talk about making an offer. We cannot control how long it takes these companies to make decisions. I will tell you that it's taking longer than I've ever seen in this market for a company to make a decision. I got VPs, senior VPs telling me, well, I have to run it by the CEO. Really? You're a senior VP. So it's happening. So we have to keep in mind, we're actually, I think if you really look at it, we're number 3 in the totem pole. God makes the decisions, then it's the company, and then it's us having to wait for those 2. So all I can tell you is patience is very important. Continue your networking, continue planting those seeds. And I will tell you up front, because I don't want to ask right now, but I guarantee you we have more than one person here has been through this at least once. And so keep your network going. All those seeds you're planting now, all the watering you're doing, when they sprout, continue to feed them, continue to feed your network, because I'm sorry to say you're going to need them again. And there's somebody in here, I don't know if she's still around, that told me she landed a job as a recruiter 6 months ago, and here she is again. So it's going to happen. So let's continue to work on that. But yes, I can't give you a time frame, but I can tell you doing the right thing by networking.
Yep.
Hello, I'm Paul Hussar. That's H-U-S-A-R. I lead call centers, customer service, and technical support departments. Every once in a while, my networking meeting turns into a counseling session.
Me too.
Well, someone is really stuck, and they're going through a lot of the things that we've talked about today. And I consider myself pretty good at building people up because I've met so many good people here. Sometimes that doesn't work. I always tell them the truth. Look, man, you gotta let go. You gotta get past it. You need to face this stuff and move forward. If I can't get through to them, I pass them on to a couple of other people I know and trust, and ask them to help, and they do. What else can I do to help people like that?
Well, I think you're doing a lot already, Paul. I mean, look, I always tell people, as much as we are about the mechanics of helping you with your job search, whatever group you're in, we're also a support group. We're here to lift each other up. And And it is those days when you're down in the dumps because you've got 3 rejections last night for the 3 jobs you applied for Monday morning. And that is the time to get yourself dressed and attend one of these groups and share that with others. Everybody here is in the same boat. And yes, we're at different levels of that. In that some just got laid off and they're really angry. And then they go through the whole depression and the whole process that everybody has to
grieving
go through.
process.
And others, hey, when the last time I got laid off, I thanked them. It was a miserable company. They were not well run at all. And to me, I felt it was, me being liberated. So it just depends on your perspective on it. But I also have that self-confidence that I know I can get a job anywhere. So you're doing the right thing. That's all I can tell you. You're a listening ear, which is so important to a lot of people here, to have somebody like you. And yeah, sometimes it does take a little bit of tough love. And this to me, I always kid around with people at South Lake. This is almost like a romantic relationship. You're going through the whole dating process and you keep kissing a lot of frogs, applying for jobs and, going through interviews. Then eventually, your prince or princess will show up and you'll get an offer. So, but it's the same thing. And if you go on a first date and you start talking badly about your last company and the way they treated you and blah, 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 there ain't going to be it's going to no second interview, no second date. So you got to keep a positive influence, and you're absolutely right. Whatever it is that's in the back of your head and those negative thoughts, you're going to have to just compartmentalize.
Compartmentalize.
Thank you, that word. And just be yourself. I mean, these guys, again, I can't speak enough about the pit crew and the job they do, but that's part of it. Preparation breeds confidence.
Yep. Let me add to that. So I always like to ask questions. And when I find myself in that situation too, sometimes it's as simple as this. What is it you want? What is it you want from this? I know that you're feeling bad or you're confused, but what is it you want from whatever your topic is that you're discussing? Most of the time, what you're going to hear them say is, well, I don't want this and I don't like that. And, I want to feel great, but this, but that, and all the negative, right? So one thing I didn't get to tell you all earlier is that the mind doesn't process don't, words like don't. It hears want, like, am, do, be. It hears those kind of words. So when you're saying things like, I don't want, I don't like, I hate such and such, whatever, and I don't want it, the mind only is picking up on the want and the like. So be very careful what you are saying, because you're actually, what you're doing is reinforcing the thing that you do not want. So when people find themselves in that state of stuck and worry, they're probably doing a lot of I don't wants, I don't like. And it's keeping them in that cycle of stuckness to where they literally have these blinders on and they can't see other options, other ways of being. So you can ask them, what do you want? And when they're saying the I don'ts, okay, unfortunately, you're going to bring that into your life, into your reality. So you've got to shift your dialogue and what you're saying. This is a practice, I promise. Okay, it's definitely a practice. So when you catch yourself saying it, whoop, stop. Just, okay, what is it I want then? So if I don't want to work for a jerk, what do I want to work for? Someone who is kind, someone who's transparent, someone who is honest, who is fair, whatever it might be. Or I don't want a job that does X, Y, Z. Well, I want a job that does A, B, C. Because you're switching. See what you're doing? You're switching the energy that you're projecting.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pete.
All right. And with that, before John brings the hook, did you have one quick question? All right, we'll do last question, then we got
I just had a quick question. So this was my most best lead I had for a job whenever I was looking was this position that was about 45 miles away from my home. and they said they would not hire me because of the commuting distance. And I didn't know if you guys had any thoughts on what would be a reasonable commute, and just for advice, just because I've never had that even happen, really, just because I didn't think you had to live within 15 minutes of wherever you're working. I didn't know if you guys had any advice. That's my quick question. Thank you again.
Look, usually when you hear stuff like that, there's a personal bias involved. They hired somebody before, and that person didn't show up half the time or was late half the time. So they decided internally, or that person decided that from now on, if they don't live within 15, 20 minutes, we're not going to hire somebody. I will tell you, probably shouldn't, but it's been 20 years now. Early on in my career as a manager, I wouldn't hire a smoker. Why? Because every time I tried to find them, they were downstairs smoking, and I had a client on the phone and I needed something answered right away.
How did you know?
Oh, you can smell them a mile away.
Oh, because you were doing in-person interviews.
Oh, yeah, I'm old enough to do in-person interviews. That too, yeah. Long before Zoom, long before. So honestly, I always tell people when I coach them, on your resumes, LinkedIn profiles, put Dallas-Fort Worth. Don't put the city you're in, because I want that recruiter to call you because of that bias. They're going to ask you, where do you live? Hey, the job's in Garland, but I know you live in Fort Worth, and keep talking. For the right opportunity, I'll make the drive. Personally, I grew up in LA, and traffic, you guys haven't seen traffic. So
We're
to
seeing
me,
it now.
that unfortunately is a personal bias you're not going to be around. So I would not focus everything on that, and just say, look, I like driving. I put in my audiobooks, and I love driving around town, so it doesn't faze me at all. And I can be here on time with no issues whatsoever. So just give them the answer. But yeah, you're going to encounter that, just like many other biases. So as I see John walking up here, that means we are getting the hook.
Yeah.
So John, I'll let you
get the hook.
Yep. Thank you all so much for your attention.
Yeah. Hey,
thank you so much.
Welcome. You're welcome. Brandon, is Brandon back there? Can you put up my presentation really fast? I just want to put my contact information up. If anybody wants to connect on LinkedIn or reach out to me to talk, I'm certainly available. Would love to connect with you.
He'll do it in a second.
Okay. I just have to switch. Just have to switch it. This is if you want to join that breakthrough session next week, next Thursday. Would love to have you. And here we go. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Lauren.